The scream did not come from one planet. It came from thousands. One by one, across the stars, quiet colonies turned into silent graves. First came darkness, then silence, then nothing. No signals. No trade, no survivors. It started near the edges of the Orax cluster, where a small mining moon named Trinax stopped transmitting. At first, the Galactic Council thought it was just a system failure. But then the next colony went dark. Then another. Then 10 more. Within 4 standard days, 17 star systems had stopped responding. Patrol ships sent to investigate never returned. The few messages that did get through were broken, filled with static and screaming. One message repeated the same word again and again in every language the galaxy had ever known. Run. Inside the Galactic Council's Central Command Hall, panic spread like fire. Screens showed maps of dead systems, blinking red with emergency signals. Senators shouted. Ambassadors accused each other. Some believed it was a new war. Others said it was a plague. The oldest among them simply stared in silence, remembering old stories that had once been dismissed as myth stories of a dark swarm, of creatures that consumed not just bodies, but data, memories, code, and identity. Creatures that could not be bargained with or understood. The council called an emergency vote. Every major world was ordered to raise defenses, activate ancient bunkers, and recall their fleets, but it was too late. The enemy was already inside. Their networks? It didn't come with ships. It came as a shadow, a whisper, a pulse of black energy that traveled faster than light. It had no name, no face. But soon, the survivors would call it one thing: the Hollow Swarm. On the 7th day, a new message arrived in the council chamber. This time it was from a planet called Telmurus 5, a peaceful trade world with no army, no weapons, and no enemies. The feed showed a council station under attack. The lights flickered, the walls bent. Strange black smoke moved like a living creature. People screamed. One soldier, covered in ash and blood, stared into the camera and whispered, "It's eating us from the inside." Then the feed cut. That was the final signal the council received from the outer ring. All remaining border colonies went silent. Council leaders met again, this time behind locked doors. Most wanted to surrender. A few wanted to flee to unknown space. But one voice spoke out with a calm but chilling suggestion. Send the emergency beacon to Earth. The room fell silent. Earth, the death world. A planet so dangerous it had been quarantined 100 years ago. A world where gravity crushed bones, air burned lungs, and even plants killed. A place that turned its own people into monster soldiers trained in fire, storms, war, and death. The galaxy had feared Earth for generations, calling its people Deathworlders. Humans were not known for peace. They were known for what they did when peace ended. But no one had heard from Earth in decades. After their last war with the Hive of Venrek, they had gone silent, shut off their gates, blocked their signals, vanished behind black walls of coded silence. Now the galaxy was begging for help. Now, the same silence that once scared them was their last hope. The council sent the SOS. They didn't expect an answer. They got one. 3 words in old Earth, code: no voice, no name, just a simple message. Message received. Prepare graves. Before anyone could react, long-range sensors showed impossible movement near the edge of the Terran exclusion zone. Massive. Objects thousands of kilometers long were leaving Earth's orbit. Some shaped like knives, others like tombstones. They made no sound, no light, just shadows that bent gravity around them. The Terran Death Fleet had awakened. They were not ships of rescue. They were ships of vengeance. In a hidden command center, buried under Council Prime, Admiral Kyrick of the Tarathi stared at the reports. He was a logical man, never afraid. But as he watched Earth's fleet moving through systems without gates, cutting through dark space like beasts hunting, he felt fear for the first time in decades. "What are they doing?" he asked his aide. The reply came quickly, calculating. "Direct route to Telmurus 5. Kyrick frowned. "Why go to a world already dead?" The aide answered. They want to see it. Up close. 3 Terran dreadnoughts arrived at the orbit of Telmris 5 in less than 6 hours. No greetings. Communication. No warning. Council observers near the system tried to hail them. They were ignored. The ships began scanning the surface. Not with satellites. With something stronger. Something alive. The scans reached down into the rock, into the soil, into the DNA left behind. One Terran vessel launched a sphere that exploded. Over the ruined capital city, turning the black smoke left by the swarm into glowing green particles. The humans called it pathogen purge. The Council called it madness. Then the Terran commander sent one short message to the Council. This time, it was a video. It showed the remains of the colony and tier families frozen in horror with holes. Where their memories used to be, their minds had been erased. Not just killed, deleted. The message ended with a line of Terran text. This is not war. This is infection. We burned our worlds to stop it once. We will do it again. The Council begged them to slow down, to negotiate. To share data, Earth did not answer. Earth does not speak when it kills. Back aboard the lead, Terran dreadnought, named Oblivion's Edge Fleet Commander Rain, stood in a sealed war room, watching the stars. He was part man, part machine. His body bore the scars of the first swarm war. His face had been rebuilt after Deneb 4. He remembered what it looked like when the parasite first learned how to speak. And now, it was doing it again. Earth had always known the swarm would return. That's why they went silent. That's why they built new weapons under the ice of Antarctica. In orbit around dead moons inside hollowed-out asteroids near black holes. While the galaxy danced in peace, Earth had prepared for a second extinction. Rain turned to his command. Begin fire calculations for every infected system. Even the Council colonies? The AI asked. He nodded. If they've been touched, they're already dead. Elsewhere, in a refugee ship drifting near the neutral border, a young alien girl named Lise watched the sky. Her home was gone. But she had seen something in the darkness, something that gave her a strange hope. Ships with black armor and no names. Soldiers who looked like machines but fought like demons. She didn't know what they were. She whispered the name she heard others say in fear. Deathworlders. Then she smiled, because maybe, just maybe, they had come to save the galaxy by burning it. For most of the galaxy, war came with colors. Bright banners, proud symbols, and victory speeches. But when Earth's fleet arrived, there were no colors, no flags, no sounds, just silence. Black metal ships that moved like ghosts across the stars. They didn't glow. They didn't signal. They didn't ask permission. They simply entered each system like they owned it. Some looked like mountains with engines. Others were long and sharp like ancient spears. Each one had no name on its hull, only a number, a purpose, direction. The Council's outer patrols tried to speak with them. This is Council space. State your intention. But Earth did not answer. One Terran vessel passed close to a Council station. The patrol ship followed it. Within seconds, the patrol ship was gone, vanished from sensors. No explosion, no warning. All that was left was a message on the Council station's screen. This is not your war. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, leaders watched helplessly as Earth's Deathworlders crossed sectors without permission. Some argued Earth was becoming a bigger threat than the swarm. Others said Earth was the only thing standing between them and extinction. For every 10 Council ships the swarm destroyed, Earth destroyed 100 swarm vessels. But the price was high. Entire colonies were vaporized if they showed signs of infection. Earth didn't quarantine, they incinerated. One Council world sent a signal asking for help. Earth replied with a fleet. By the time the fleet arrived, the infection had spread to one city. Earth bombed the whole continent, the Council protested. Sent a warning to Earth's command center. They received one message in reply. We warned you. We don't do rescue. We do endings. Inside the Terran dreadnought, Oblivion's Edge, Fleet Commander Rain stood in the center of the war room. Around him, thick black armor covered every inch of the walls. Crew wore suits designed not for comfort, but survival. Scarred faces, cold eyes, Most were born on Earth's harshest land's acid deserts, storm zones, radiation pits. One officer, her name was Vex, once lived in a crater where the rain could melt skin. She lost her parents to plague worms at age 6. Now she controlled Earth's most powerful orbital cannon with one eye and no hesitation. This was the heart of humanity's army, men and women shaped by death. They were not raised to survive. They were raised to win. Commander Rain turned to the crew. Next system. Daenerys 6 Council says it's still clean. Swarm activity? Vex asked. Unclear. No signals. No trade. Just silence. He stared at the dark map of stars, voice like a storm. That's how it always begins. Daenerys 6 was once a bright trade world. Golden cities, sky bridges, massive alien parks. But when Earth's fleet arrived, everything was still. No signs of life, no gunfire. Just quiet buildings, still lights, and roads covered in soft black dust. Earth deployed scouts. Small black pods fell like meteors from the sky, opening to reveal 6-foot soldiers in heavy armor. They carried no flags, no names, just symbols of old Earth: fire, bones, blades. Wolves. One scout team entered a residential dome. The doors were open. Inside were perfectly made beds, food still on tables, toys on the ground, but no people. No signs of violence. Just shadows on the walls, frozen shapes of where people used to be. Sergeant Kale, leading the team, whispered into his cum. They're not dead. They're missing. Another team found something worse. A council scientist still alive, hiding inside a shielded storage unit. He was shaking, blood dripping from his nose. They pulled him out. He looked up at the Terran soldiers and screamed, "You brought it here. You brought it with you." Then he collapsed. On the wall behind him, written in some unknown fluid, were the words, "They know you now." Back on Oblivion's edge, Rain watched the data come in. His voice was calm but cold. "It's not a clean system." Colonel Vex frowned, but the council scan said it was infection-free. He looked at her. "Then the council scan is infected." He opened the war map. "Purge Daenerys 6. Vex paused. "Sir, civilians might still be alive." Rain nodded. Better a dead world than a seated one. As Earth's fleet moved into position, fireships armed with planetary burners lined up. These weren't nukes. These were fusion storms designed to melt crust, collapse sky, turn cities to glass. The order came in 5 words. End it. All of it. Daenerys 6 burned. The buildings fell first, then the trees, then the clouds. In 5 minutes, nothing living remained. A once great world turned to a glowing red shell. Council eyes watched from orbit and screamed in outrage. One ambassador cried, "This is genocide." But Earth's reply was short. "No, this is survival." After the purge, something strange happened. One of the Earth's ships detected a signal, not from the swarm, not from the council, from within their own fleet, a signal that did not belong. A mimic. A code inside their own systems. The swarm had followed them. It had watched their movements. It had learned their language. It had begun to copy Earth. Inside the war room, Rain stared at the screen as the strange signal blinked on and off in Morse code. 3 dots. 8. 3 dashes. 3 dots. SOS, the same message the galaxy had sent to Earth. Now the swarm was sending it back. Mocking them, Vex spoke slowly. "Sir, the parasite isn't just spreading, it's studying us." Rain nodded. "That's what it always does. But now it's doing something worse." She frowned. "Worse than copying us." He turned to her with eyes colder than space. "It's becoming us." Back in the council chamber, new debates broke out. Some demanded that Earth be stopped before they destroyed more innocent systems. Others begged Earth to come deeper into council space to help defend their core planets. The galaxy was now divided. Half feared the swarm, the other half feared Earth more. But only one voice mattered, the voice of the swarm. Spreading faster with every hour, and now it was learning how To speak like a human far away on a hidden world, the swarm's central hive shifted. New forms were being shaped. Tall, two-legged, wearing armor, using rifles, speaking in harsh commands. But these were not humans. These were copies. Parasite-born soldiers with human faces, and they were ready, because the galaxy had called for Deathworlders. Now the swarm was sending its own. Before, it moved like a shadow. Now it marched like a soldier. The hollow swarm no longer needed to hide. It had taken enough. It had learned enough. The parasite was changing, growing faster than anyone thought possible. And now, for the first time in its history, it had faces. Human faces. Not real ones. Copies, soldiers made from dead memories. Broken codes, half-eaten DNA. They looked like humans. It moved like humans. Some even spoke like Earth's soldiers. But they weren't human. They were something worse. Something built to replace, and they were coming. In the dark void between stars, Earth's Deathworlder fleet moved silently. Its weapons glowed with charged fury. After the destruction of Denari 6, they knew something had gone wrong. The swarm wasn't just reacting. It was evolving. Inside the dreadnought Oblivion's edge, Fleet Commander Rain stared at the screen. Dozens of red dots blinked back. Each dot represented a ship swarm ships headed for the Council's inner colonies, the infected. Fleet was massive, more than expected, more than possible, and that's when the truth hit him. These ships weren't coming from somewhere. They were already there. They were built inside Council space, Rain said coldly. Colonel Vex leaned closer to the scan. But how? No gate logs, no sensor activity. Rain turned to her. They didn't invade. They grew inside the walls. The swarm had stopped attacking the galaxy from the outside. Now, it grew within. Like a virus in the blood, it had used the SOS signals as carriers. Inside those distress calls were hidden data packets, small, nearly invisible bits of corrupted code. Once received by defense systems, they infected everything. Drones, satellites, biolabs, even humans. Some colonies had no idea they were already hosting a silent war, until their soldiers stopped following orders, until their children stopped blinking, until their computers began praying in languages no one taught them. The parasite didn't fight fair. It didn't need to. It wasn't a fleet. It was a pattern, a signal that turned memory into madness. It found what people feared most, and then became it. On the once beautiful world of Virel Prime, Earth's scout team arrived late. Too late. The cities were still standing, untouched. Lights still on, shuttles still parked, but the people were gone, not dead. Not broken, just erased. Every home was empty, every room still warm, inside the capital. Earth's soldiers found a crowd gathered in the main square, thousands of people standing. Eyes wide, mouths open, Movi, frozen like statues. Sergeant. Kale walked through the crowd slowly. He spoke into his helmet. There's no heartbeat, no breath, but they're not dead. Then he heard it, a whisper, soft, almost kind. We are listening. His rifle clicked up. But there was nothing, just silence. Then, from every mouth of every frozen person, we are learning. Back aboard the fleet, Earth's command AI confirmed the worst. The swarm has created a mimic virus. It records behavior, language, DNA, emotional patterns. It no longer just copies life, it copies identity. Rain clenched his fist. They're trying to be us. Council leaders received Earth's warning, but they didn't understand the full danger. Copies? So what? Senator barked. If we destroy the bodies, we destroy the swarm. But Earth knew better, because Earth had faced this before, and it remembered how it ended. With Earth itself almost lost, Rain gathered his senior commanders. He displayed a symbol burned into one of the mimic soldiers they killed on Denara 6 Amperes. Mark only known to Earth's Black Ops unit from a war 60 years ago. This isn't just copying what we look like, he said. It's copying what we hide. Black programs. Secret soldiers. Classified history. Things the galaxy didn't even know existed. And now, the swarm was building its own Deathworlders. Colonel Vex whispered the question no one wanted to say, "What if we can't stop it?" Rain didn't blink. Then we burn. The whole map. Every infected system. Every route. Every link. We starve it. Freeze it. Drown it. Erase every echo it's using. She looked at him, and the council. They get in the way. He paused. We burn them too. Just as Rain prepared to order a system-wide purge, a new signal came through. Not from Earth, not from the council, from within the infected fleet, encrypted in old Earth military code, voice only, awomansoft.com. "This is Commander Lyra of the Lost. I was taken by the swarm during the first war. I escaped. I know what they're building, and I know how to kill it." Everyone froze. Rain leaned forward. Lyra was one of Earth's ghost commanders, reported dead. Decades ago, she had vanished during the Hive War. Now she was speaking again. "They call themselves Hollow now," her voice said. "They don't. Just copy. They steal futures. Every time they mimic us, they make it harder for us to remember who we are. You can't just shoot them. You have to outthink them." Then her voice cracked. "They have something. A child. Not human. It's not swarm. Something new. They think it's the next step. Find her before they do, or it all ends." Rain stepped back. Silence filled the war room. A child. What kind of child could scare the Hollow? And how could it exist if the swarm erased everything it touched? The questions didn't matter. Only the mission. Rani turned to Vex. "Trace the signal. Find that child." Elsewhere, far from fleets and fire on a lonely world left behind by the council, a girl sat under the stars. She was no one. She remembered nothing. But sometimes, she heard voices in her head. And sometimes, she answered them. Her name was Island, and the Hollow Swarm was already looking for her. Earth did not believe in luck. Earth believed in force, survival, and calculation. When they fought to end things, not to escape, not to retreat, not to negotiate. Now that the Hollow Swarm had begun copying them, Earth knew the time for watching was over. It had to strike harder, faster, deeper. Every second gave the enemy time to learn. And the swarm was learning fast, inside the Terran dreadnought, Oblivion's Edge. Fleet Commander Rain stood in front of a circular display table, watching a growing storm of red dots, each one a confirmed Hollow vessel. These were not the mindless drones Earth had destroyed in past battles. These were mimics. They flew like Earth ships. Their weapons were stolen designs. Their tactics were sharper, faster. But the worst part, they didn't just copy Earth's soldiers. They started to outsmart. Then back at Earth's Central War Archive buried under miles of ice near Antarctica, Project Ghostfire was activated. It had been locked away after Earth's first swarm war, considered too dangerous even for Deathworlders. Ghostfire wasn't a weapon, it was an idea. A plan to reshape how humans fought, how they moved, how they thought, based on chaos theory, neural pattern disruption, an adaptive war code. It didn't just give orders, it made every soldier unpredictable. No pattern, no plan the enemy could steal. The swarm copied structure. Ghostfire gave them madness. Rani sent the order. Initiate Ghostfire protocol. Unlock all restricted units. We kill the pattern. Colonel Vex wasn't sure it would work. You're telling me we'd throw out centuries of strategy and fight? Like savages. Rain didn't smile. Not like savages. Like humans. Before rules, before fear, before peace. Across 5 star systems, Earth deployed the Ghostfire teams. These were not normal Deathworlders. These were Earthborn soldiers who had never left their brutal homeworld, trained in storm zones, born in gravity 3 times normal, fed with instinct, not instruction. One squad dropped into an infected station on Galactic. They wore no armor, just body paint. One carried a hammer, another had claws, welded to her arms. Their leader had no name, only a barcode on his face. in less than 12 minutes. The station was cleared. One survivor described what she saw. They didn't move like soldiers. They moved like monsters. While ghost fire forces tore through hollow units on the front lines, Earth's war AI found something strange, a repeating signal inside every mimic's brain, a location coordinates, always changing, but always circling. The same space. Somewhere in the broken remains of the Derekai Nebula, Rain narrowed his eyes. It's calling them home. Rain met privately with Earth's high command through deep burst communication. No one else was allowed in the room. The message he received was simple. The Derekai coordinates match an old black site. Deep burial zone. Class XB. What was buried there? Rain asked. Silence, then an answer that chilled even him. We don't know. The swarm dug first. A special recon unit was sent to the Derekai edge. What they found was not a world. It was a wound. Floating rock shaped like a broken skull, cracks glowing red. Dead ships orbiting it like flies. And inside, buried under steel and time, was a signal tower, unlike anything ever built by humans or any known race. The swarm hadn't made it. They had found it, and now they were using it. Rain ordered full blackout over DRA. No council. Ships allowed, only Earth. Because what was hidden inside that tower wasn't just old, it was pre-human. The signal was older than Earth's first language, older than light itself, and it spoke in rhythms. Like heartbeat, back on Oblivion's edge. Rain reviewed the data. He looked at the girl Island, the survivor found by Earth on a half-dead colony. Weeks earlier, she spoke little, she ate even less. But when shown the signal, she responded, not with fear, not with words, but by humming. The same beat, the same tone. She didn't know why, but her body remembered, and that scared Rain more than anything. Colonel Vex studied her from behind glass. She's the child Lyra warned us about. Rain nodded, not human, not hollow. Something new. You think she's the Earthborn solution? He looked away. She might be the only one. The Ghostfire units reached Derekai. Tower first. What they saw inside was impossible. Mimic soldiers kneeling, not fighting, not moving, just praying. To what? The signal, to the rhythm to her. One hollow soldier stepped forward. His face looked exactly like Rain's. Same eyes, same scar. But when he spoke, the voice was hollow, broken, wrong. She belongs to us. She is the next step. You are the past. Then it lunged. GHOSTFIRE troops opened fire. But for every mimic they killed, another took its place, from the walls, from the floor, from inside the tower. It was not a base, it was a hatchery. The swarm had found the tower long ago and used it to grow. Not drones, not viruses, but replacements. Rain made the decision instantly. Fire the Leviathan lance now. Sir, the Ghostfire team is still, they know. The price. Earth's most forbidden weapon launched. A beam of raw gravity twisted space around Derekai Tower. The entire structure bent inward. Collapsing on itself, the hatchery burned. Ghostfire signals vanished, but so did the coordinates, and something else. The signal stopped. Island woke up screaming. Blood ran from her ears. Then she whispered, "You made them afraid." For the first time in galactic history, the swarm retreated. Not regrouped, not changed shape. Retreated. Ronnie watched the star maps. Clear. But he didn't relax, because something was still missing. The signal was gone, but the pattern remained, and Eileen was beginning to remember things she never lived, languages she never studied, memories not her own. Back in Earth's high orbit, Command prepared a final question. One Rain didn't want to ask, but he had to. What if the girl isn't Earth's weapon, but the swarm's? Earth had won battles before. It had faced monsters, machines, alien empires, and plagues. But this time, something felt different. For the first time in decades, Earth's top war minds felt uncertain. The hollow swarm wasn't just losing and learning anymore, it was changing. adapting, surviving. Even after being struck by the Leviathan lance, Earth's strongest weapon. Something inside that Derekai tower had been destroyed, but not everything. The signal had vanished. Yes. But across the galaxy, strange reports started coming in. Not from the edge worlds, not from infected zones, but from inside Earth's own fleet. The first report was quiet. Single Ghostfire soldier started acting strange. He walked into a med bay and stood in silence, facing the wall. For 2 hours. Then he turned to the doctor and said one thing, "I am still listening." He collapsed seconds later. His body burned from the inside out. Earth's science teams scanned his brain, found traces of unfamiliar neural activity patterns that matched the swarm's rhythm from Derekai. But this soldier had never entered the tower. He had never even left the ship. So how had the infection reached him? Inside Oblivion's Edge, Rain stood before a sealed chamber where Island sat alone. Her room had no windows, no doors. Only smooth walls made of null steel, a rare metal that blocked psychic and quantum signals. But even that didn't seem to work anymore. She had stopped talking. She had started drawing. Circles, spirals, faces. Some human, some hollow. Some both. Rain watched from behind the glass. She drew the tower, then the Ghostfire troops, then him. And finally, herself in the middle. Of it all, Colonel Vex entered the room behind Ra. Ni. She whispered, "We're seeing it on other ships." Officers hearing whispers. Drones acting strange. Lights flickering in perfect rhythm. "It's spreading without touch." Rain replied, "The infection's no longer physical." Vex's voice was tight. "It's in our minds." They turned, their eyes to Island again. She stopped drawing. She looked at them. She smiled and said, "They're not coming anymore. They're already here." At that moment, alarms screamed across the fleet. One of the secondary ships, Eclipse Arc, suddenly turned its weapons inward, firing at its own engine bay. The explosion tore through the ship's core. Earth crews escaped in escape pods, but the ship was lost. One survivor said he saw the captain walking calmly down a burning hallway before vanishing. Not running, not afraid, just melting, as if his body was never fully human at all. Back on Earth, emergency lockdowns activated. Every AI system was disconnected. Every synthetic network was shut down. Swarm had entered a new phase of war mental infection. It didn't. Spread by bite or breath, it spread by thought, and Earth had given it so much to think about. Every strategy, every memory, every weapon, and now it was thinking back. Rain gathered his officers. "From now on, we switch to analog tech only," he ordered. "No more smart systems, no more voice controls. Hard switches, manual overrides. We go full old Earth." Vex raised an eyebrow. "Steam, gauges and bullets, steel and fire," Rain said. "Things the mind virus can't touch. But how do we stop what we can't see?" He didn't answer, because he didn't know. In the black above the moon of Tarn, Swarm fleet approached. But this time, there were no drones, no monsters, only ships that looked human. They broadcast a message in Earth's own war code. "We have adapted. You are obsolete. We offer your species a place. Join the next form." Rain spat. "They want surrender," Vex said, "or worse, acceptance." He turned to the tactical map. "Ready the fleet? We fight." But not everyone agreed. Inside the Galactic Council, panic broke out. Some alien leaders had started to agree. With the swarm, if they're learning, if they're becoming smarter, maybe we can live with them. Others shouted in horror. "They erase your soul. They wear your face." But already, some colonies were making deals with the Hollow. They called it the Merge Dot in secret rooms. Council leaders met with mimic diplomat screechers who looked perfect, spoke perfectly, but had no real past. They promised protection, safety. A future where war would end forever, one leader asked, "And what must we give?" The answer was quiet. "Everything you are." Back aboard Oblivion's Edge, Rain made a choice. He opened Island's chamber and stepped inside. No guards, no armor, just him and the girl. She stared at him. Her eyes shimmered like starlight. "You're changing," she said softly. "You're not just Deathworlders anymore. You're scared." He nodded. "I am. Good," she said. "That means you're still human," she handed him. Her final drawing, it showed Earth's fleet burning, but at the center. One light, one symbol, not swarm, not council, something new. "What is this?" she asked. She smiled me. Rain stepped out and called the command. "We have to find where the signal starts. Not the copies. Not the infected. The origin. We track the echo backward, find the first whisper, and we end it." Vex looked at him. "You're talking about going into the mind space." "Exactly," Rain said. "Sir, that's suicide." "Maybe, but it's the only way to win this war. Somewhere in the dark between galaxies, the hollow swarm stirred. It knew what they were planning, and it was ready, because inside every Terran ship, every echo of Earth's old wars, inside Island herself, the infection was already waiting. The line had to be drawn somewhere. Earth had burned worlds, erased colonies, silenced entire star systems to stop the swarm. But the enemy didn't come in ships anymore. It came in whispers. It didn't charge in waves. It slipped through thoughts. It didn't carry weapons. It used you. It used everything you loved, remembered, believed. Now Earth's Deathworlders stood at the edge of the last barrier, starless region between two galaxies. Once thought empty, now it pulsed. A signal lived here, beating like a heart, echoing. Through time and thought, Earth's war AI traced every infected frequency, every psychic tremor, and every whisper in the minds of those who had heard the swarm. All of it led here. This place wasn't just the origin of the infection. It was the birthplace of the idea, on board Oblivion's edge. Fleet Commander Rain stood at the viewing deck, watching the abyss. There were no planets here, no stars, just black. Yet inside that black, his sensors picked up something massive, so large it bent gravity, light, and logic. A structure, half-formed, half-live. Mind Factory. A place where the swarm didn't just grow bodies. It grew consciousness. The council didn't come. They were too afraid. Rain. A didn't blame them. Earth had chosen to stand alone, to make one final line. Not to defend territory, but memory, Colonel. Vex stood beside him. "We still have a chance to leave. Turn to the inner sectors. Warn the others." Rain shook his head. "If we leave, it follows. We fight here, or we fight forever." The fleet spread out in a circular pattern, 30 ships in total. Smaller ships carried quantum bombs and cryolances. The dreadnoughts carried black matter weapons, tools never used in battle, designed to erase things from time. But even those might not be enough. Inside the deepest vault of the ship, Island sat alone. She no longer slept. She no longer ate. Eyes glowed faintly now, like starlight filtered through water. She whispered to herself in a voice that wasn't fully her own. "They're building something new. They're building a version of us that never dies." Rain entered. "I need answers," he said. Ilon looked at him, calm. "They don't want to destroy Earth. They want to be Earth. Perfect Earth. One without death. One without pain. They think they're helping." He stepped forward. "You're connected to them. Can you shut it down?" It blinked. "No, but I can open the door." The fleet moved in. As they approached the Mind Factory, the stars began to bend. Soldiers vomited. Screens flickered. Time slowed. Rain's command AI burned out mid-sentence. The space around them fought back. This wasn't just a signal. It was a place that remembered too much. Every soldier who had ever died in Earth's wars, every scream, every thought, all copied, stored, rebuilt. Now the hollow swarm used them as bait suddenly. The fleet received a direct message from one of Earth's own dead commanders, Admiral Juno, killed in the first Hive War 40 years ago. Her voice came through, perfect, calm, loving. "Stop fighting, Rain. We've won. This is peace. You can live forever. We have Island. But it wasn't her. Not really. Just a mimic. Built from what Earth remembered of her. A mask made of grief. Rain didn't hesitate. Shut her down. Oblivion's Edge fired its main cannon. The mimic fleet guarding the mine factory didn't move. They didn't fire. They just watched and let the Deathworlders come. Because this wasn't a trap. It was an invitation. Rain knew what had to be done. He opened Island's chamber. "Tell me," he said, "how to finish this." Island looked up, tears in her strange glowing eyes. "You have to let me in, into the mine factory. Let me speak to the core. I'm the piece there. Missing. I'm what makes them almost human. But if I choose, I can unmake it all." It was suicide, sending a child into the heart of the Hollow's brain. But Earth had no other choice. This wasn't a war they could win with guns anymore. This was a war for the soul. They launched a drop pod, one passenger only, Ilan inside her hand. She held nothing. But in her mind, she carried Earth's original rhythm of pulse, memory, a pattern that could not be copied. A fragile beat. A human heartbeat. The pod descended into the structure. It didn't crash. It was welcomed. The inside was unlike anything Earth had seen. Walls made of memories. Lights made of voices. Machines shaped like regrets. And at the center, a glowing brain, alive, awake, watching. The core Island stepped forward. It spoke to her in her own voice. "You are what we could never be. You are pain. You are love. Your memory without perfection. You are flawed. You are real. Must join us." Island stood still and whispered, "No. You don't get to wear us like a costume. You don't get to erase what makes us human. You don't get to steal our scars." And then she opened her mind. Above in orbit, the Earth's fleet watched as the hollow brain began to fracture. Light poured from every crack. The mimic ships fell silent. The voices stopped. Even the stars seemed to pause. Then, everything exploded, not in flame, but in forgetting. The hollow mind didn't burn. It unwrote itself. Its memories collapsed. Its patterns broke. Earth's heartbeat, the raw, imperfect rhythm of life, was something it couldn't process, and so it died. Not with a scream, but with a question it could never answer. Why do you choose pain? Island's pod never returned. No signal, no trace, but the infection stopped. Across the galaxy, the whispers faded. The lights returned. The mimic soldiers fell. Rain stood on the bridge of Oblivion's Edge. His crew watched. The quiet sky. Colonel Vex stood beside him. "Is it over?" He nodded once. For now. Somewhere deep in the void, a single echo remained. A heartbeat. Not human. Not swarm. Something. The war was over. The mimic fleets had gone quiet. The hollow signal vanished from all channels. Across the galaxy, infected systems healed. Cities once lost to corruption flickered back to life. No more whispers. No more faces worn like masks. No more voices calling in the dark. But the silence didn't feel like peace. It felt like a warning. Because something was still missing. Ill and on board Oblivion's Edge, Fleet Commander Rains stood at the edge of the observation deck. All around him, stars drifted in calm, cold light. There were no signs of swarm movement, no ghost ships, no false echoes. But Rain didn't feel relief. He felt a hole in the world. Island had been their solution, their weapon, their sacrifice. A being created by the collision of Earth and the swarm, part human, part something else. She had entered the core of the hollow mind and ended the war. But in doing so, she vanished. Not killed, just gone. Colonel Vex stood beside him, quiet for once. "We've scanned every sector. No trace of her DNA. No pod fragments. No signals." Nodded slowly. "She's not dead. If she was, I'd feel it. She's somewhere else." In memory, Earth sent probes into the old battlefield. They found nothing. No debris, no remains. Just one strange pulse buried deep inside. A black star nearby. It was soft, slow, like a heartbeat, but not mechanical, not natural, something in between. Back on Earth, leaders debated how to explain the war to the rest of the galaxy. The Council wanted to erase the story, to bury it like a nightmare. Earth refused. They broadcast the entire history, the SOS, the arrival, the mimic plague, island sacrifice. Not as a warning, but as a reminder, a lesson about something no machine could ever steal. Rain stood in front of Earth's high command. The chamber was packed with generals, scientists, even old soldiers who had once fought in the Hive Wars. He said only one thing: we didn't win because we were stronger. We won because we remembered who we were, because we refused to become something easier, because we chose to be human. Across Earth and its colonies, the word spread. Memorials were built. The largest one stood on the edge of Mars, a tall, clear statue of a girl reaching for the stars. Underneath were just 5 words she remembered: so we survived. But the galaxy didn't stay quiet for long. Within weeks, strange readings returned. Not attacks, not corruption, just new patterns. AI systems began dreaming. Some machines started writing music. Drones painted pictures, scenes they'd never seen before at first. Earth scientists feared a new infection, but there were no threats, no mind control, no mimicry, just something left behind. Rain received a personal transmission from a remote colony on the edge of the old swarm zone. A child had been born, not a clone, not infected, healthy, but different. Her brainwaves pulsed in rhythm, the same rhythm as islands, and she had drawn the tower before ever being told about it. More children like her appeared on different worlds, each unique, each brilliant, each dreaming of stars in ways no human ever had. They were not part swarm, they were part something new. Rain stood again before command. "This isn't infection," he said. "It's evolution." Colonel Vex approached him afterward. "You think Island changed something?" Rain nodded. She went inside their mind and broke it. But maybe she also left something behind. A gift. They called them the Starborn. Not quite. Human, not alien. The first of a new kind. A generation shaped not by violence, but by choice. Island had given the galaxy a future not controlled by copies, but by possibility. The Council feared them at first, but they soon realized the truth. The Starborn didn't want to lead. They wanted to learn, to listen, to grow. And they never forgot the war. They remembered every death, every signal, every sacrifice. They even remembered the hollow, and they made one rule: we do not forget what we survived. One quiet night years later, Rain returned to the old battlefield, just a simple scout ship, no weapons. He stood in the dark, alone, looking at the stars that once held horror. He closed his eyes. He whispered, "If you're still out there, thank you." And from the black, he heard something, a sound, not a voice, not a signal, just a soft, steady beat, like a heartbeat. And for the first time in years, Rain smiled, because some things cannot be replaced. The war was over. The mimic fleets had gone quiet. The hollow signal vanished from all channels. Across the galaxy, infected systems healed. Cities once lost to corruption flickered back to life. No more whispers. No more faces worn like masks. No more voices calling in the dark. But the silence didn't feel like peace. It felt like a warning, because something was still missing. Ill and on board Oblivion's edge, Fleet Commander Rain stood at the edge of the observation deck. All around him, stars drifted in calm, cold light. There were no signs of swarm movement, no ghost ships, no false echoes. But Rain didn't feel relief. He felt a hole in the world. Island had been their solution, their weapon, their sacrifice. A being created by the collision of Earth and the swarm, part human, part something else. She had entered the core of the hollow mind and ended the war. But in doing so, she vanished, not killed, just gone. Colonel Vex stood beside him, quiet for once. "We've scanned every sector, no trace of her DNA. No pod fragments, no signals. Nodded slowly. She's not dead. If she was, I'd feel it. She's somewhere else. In memory, Earth sent probes into the old battlefield. They found nothing. No debris, no remains. Just one strange pulse buried deep inside. A black star nearby. It was soft, slow, like a heartbeat, but not mechanical, not natural, something in between. Back on Earth, leaders debated how to explain the war to the rest of the galaxy. The Council wanted to erase the story, to bury it like a nightmare. Earth refused. They broadcast the entire history, the SOS, the arrival, the mimic plague, island sacrifice. Not as a warning, but as a reminder, a lesson about something no machine could ever steal. Rain stood in front of Earth's high command. The chamber was packed with generals, scientists, even old soldiers who had once fought in the Hive Wars. He said only one thing: we didn't win because we were stronger. We won because we remembered who we were, because we refused to become something easier, because we chose to be human. Across Earth and its colonies, the word spread. Memorials were built. The largest one stood on the edge of Mars, a tall, clear statue of a girl reaching for the stars. Underneath were just 5 words she remembered: so we survived. But the galaxy didn't stay quiet for long. Within weeks, strange readings returned. Not attacks, not corruption, just new patterns. AI systems began dreaming. Some machines started writing music. Drones painted picture scenes they'd never seen before at first. Earth scientists feared a new infection, but there were no threats, no mind control, no mimicry, just something left behind. Rain received a personal transmission from a remote colony on the edge of the old swarm zone. A child had been born, not a clone, not infected, healthy, but different. Her brainwaves pulsed in rhythm, the same rhythm as islands, and she had drawn the tower before ever being told about it. More children like her appeared on different worlds, each unique, each brilliant, each dreaming of stars in ways no human ever had. They were not part swarm. They were part something new. Rain stood again before command. "This isn't infection," he said. "It's evolution." Colonel Vex approached him afterward. "You think Island changed something?" Rain nodded. She went inside their mind and broke it. But maybe she also left something behind. A gift. They called them the Starborn. Not quite. Human, not alien. The first of a new kind. A generation shaped not by violence, but by choice. Island had given the galaxy a future not controlled by copies, but by possibility. The Council feared them at first, but they soon realized the truth. The Starborn didn't want to lead. They wanted to learn, to listen, to grow, and they never forgot the war. They remembered every death, every signal, every sacrifice. They even remembered the hollow, and they made one rule: we do not forget what we survived. One quiet night years later, Rain returned to the old battlefield, just a simple scout ship, no weapons. He stood in the dark, alone, looking at the stars that once held horror. He closed his eyes. He whispered, "If you're still out there, thank you." And from the black, he heard something, a sound, not a voice, not a signal, just a soft, steady beat, like a heartbeat. And for the first time in years, Rain smiled, because some things cannot be replaced.